Welcome back to Autism Live. We have joining us via the phone because we're having some sort of Skype meltdown. I don't know what it is. But Tracey MacDonald is joining us live on the phone. She is the Executive Director of the Southern California chapter of Autism Speaks. It's her first time being on the show, but I'm so thrilled to welcome her. She is an autism mom. We were just having a little giggle about the Skype not working and deciding to do it on the phone and saying, you know, we're autism moms, and when it doesn't work one way, we find a workaround, because that's what we do. So Tracey, so thrilled to have you on the show. Welcome to Autism Live.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's really a pleasure to have you here. Now, you guys have a big event that's happening this Saturday. I understand, I was saying the 18th earlier because I can't see straight, but someday, in 2 years, it will be the 18th, but this is the 16th annual Los Angeles Walk for Autism. Tell us a little bit about this event and what's happening on Saturday, and let's chat, but tell us the details of what's going on Saturday.
I will. It's my favorite day of the year when we bring the entire Southern California autism community together, both parents and adults and friends and family. We meet at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, starting at 8:30. We have registration. 9:30, we have sort of some nice opening ceremonies, and then we walk around the Rose Bowl as a big community.
Yeah, it's a really wonderful event. This has also been one of my favorite events from the beginning of time. I specifically asked you to come on this year to talk because there are some miscommunications and some things to clear up about participation. You know, not to put too much of a backstory on it, because I think what's important is now and today. But the walk has gone through some transitions, I think that's fair to say, over the years, and some of the ways in which people access the walk has changed. So let's talk about how people can participate this year.
Okay, and I do appreciate that, because I think as an organization, just like every human being out there, we have made some mistakes along the way, and we fully recognize and acknowledge that. And I always go with the, you know, when you know better, you do better.
That's right.
So this year, pre-registration is 100% free. This is a fundraising event for us, and we love when people pre-register. It just helps us manage crowd control so that we have enough water for everyone, that we have the right support services at the Rose Bowl. So having people pre-register for free makes us able to plan the event much better. We do ask if people show up day of the event to pay a $10 registration fee, which is really just to cover additional costs that are incurred for larger crowds.
Absolutely. So to be clear, you know, we're all grown-ups here. This is a fundraising event, and the whole purpose of the event from the beginning of time was to raise funds, and we can talk about how Autism Speaks uses the funds that are raised in a second, but it is a fundraiser. And so if you want to go to the walk, you need to register ahead of time if you don't want to pay to get in. There is no minimum, correct me if I'm wrong, there is no minimum fundraising that you have to do if you register. Because, as I said, we're all adults. There are some young families that are in the beginning of autism, they've just been diagnosed, and they are being bombarded and they're overwhelmed and they have so many things going on, and if they go, I really want to go to this amazing event, I just don't know if I have the bandwidth to fundraise. That isn't what Autism Speaks is saying. They're just saying register. Register, and if you don't have the ability to fundraise, come anyway. It's not going to cost you anything, but make sure that you register, because we have to account for bodies, we have to account for, you know, what security and having accommodations and all of those things. Autism Speaks would prefer it if you fundraised, and you know, there are some amazing opportunities to fundraise. In fact, if you fundraise to a certain event, you have things, I don't know if you still have, but the Grand Club was always a thing that people love to be. If you raised $1,000 or more, $1,000 or more, you got to be at the Grand Club, and trust me, that's a big reinforcer, getting to be at that Grand Club. So they do want you to fundraise, but if you don't have the bandwidth, just make sure you register online before the event. If you fail to do that, then there will be a $10 admission if you are anyone other than a person on the spectrum. Is that correct? Or have I got that wrong?
Children under 18, there is no registration fee. It's really for adults only, and only any adult that is on the spectrum, they never pay. Okay.
So I just am glad that we got that out, because even I the other day misunderstood and thought that everyone was being charged to go into the resource fair. So let's be very clear. We can put that myth to rest. That is not what's happening now.
I appreciate that so much. That is 100% true. There's no per person charge as long as they pre-register.
There you go. So that's super cool. So now that we put that on the table and said, here's, how you can do that, let's talk about why people should come to this wonderful event. And I'm sure you've got a list, I've got a list, but I'm going to let you go first.
Okay. When we originally started this walk, and it was originally conceived in a living room with a bunch of parents sitting around wanting to do something. For me personally, I find that I'm not a behavior therapist. I'm not a speech therapist. There were just so many things about autism that I felt helpless about, that I didn't know how to move forward. And for me, the walk really was a chance for me to feel like I was doing something concrete. So I love the walk. I think it is a great experience. I love that this is the one time of year that our friends and family show up for us, because I think for a lot of our family lives somewhere else. They don't really know how to interact with our son, and this is the only way that they really show up for us. I don't mean the only way, but it is a way for them to really say, we see you, we support you, we love Griffin, what can we do to help? And I think for so many people, I think the word fundraising is difficult. They're like, I don't want to ask anyone for money. Yeah. And I always put it this way, is that if you have a girlfriend, a sister-in-law, someone that's been diagnosed with breast cancer, and you don't know how to help them, you just feel kind of helpless. If they came to you and said, hey, will you do this walk with me? I find I'm so incredibly grateful that I now have a tangible way to show how much I care, and I really want to support them. I just don't know what to do. And that is exactly, to me, what this walk is all about. It is a chance for us to let people support us. I don't know about you, but as an autism mom, I feel like I've got to do it all by myself. I've got to make all the appointments. I got to figure out what's happening, and it's really hard for me to ask for help. Yeah. And this is the one time a year that I actually let people help me. So I cry every year, happy and sad tears.
Yes, yes.
Because it's so overwhelming, and to be with all these other families and individuals and parents and, people that truly care about us and what we're going through and our son. And I got to say, my favorite people that come to the walk are honestly people that aren't impacted, that, aren't part of this tribe we call autism, and that they just are there to help and really show their support. Like, I think that's amazing. I go to the walk, because our family is impacted, and I just love and appreciate the people that just want to come and support us. So that is why it's my favorite day.
And I got to be honest, I did the walk in an entirely different way. When the first few years that we came to the walk, I came with my husband and my son, and it was just us. I saw all the people that were there in teams with their family there, and their neighbors, and their child's teacher, and they all had matching T-shirts, and they had capes, or you see the teams, and I was always amazed by that. I got to be honest that I was one of those people that didn't know how to access that. But even without doing a team, it became one of the most important things for us as a family because it was a place that I could go. I'm going to get emotional.
It is emotional. It is an emotional
It
day.
is.
I feel like we all let our guard down a bit, and that's okay.
And to be there with all those other people and to see that I was not on the surface of the moon by myself, that there were all of these other people and they were breathing and walking and talking, it would recharge my batteries every single year. And every year that we went back, our son was better. The first year was the hardest. And I remember that first year, and I had that chip on my shoulder of, well, everybody isn't dealing with what I'm dealing with. And I went to the walk and there were, tens of thousands of people there. And there was one moment where I had my son in a stroller and he was having a little bit of a meltdown. And I was sort of maneuvering my stroller and trying to get to the side and having that moment of, no one knows what it's like to be me. And there was another mom who was coming towards me with her child in a stroller, having the same exact moment, like a mirror moment. And we both looked at each other, and the first moment we were like, you're going to have to let me go through because I have a child with autism having a meltdown, and you don't know what that's like. But there was that moment where both of these eyes met each other, and then we looked at each other and realized, oh, you're dealing with exactly with what I'm dealing with. And we sort of passed each other, stopped, hugged each other, and went on our way, and there was no conversation. But it reminded me that, I'm not alone, that there's something bigger going on here. And there were so many resources there that I, went around to all of the booths, and there wasn't even time to talk with each person at the booth, but I took every single pamphlet in the first year and I put it in my bag and I went home and then I spread them all out. And I, in some ways I'm incredibly organized and in others not. And this was well before I ever hosted a show about autism, but I spread all of the pamphlets out. There were toys and things and giveaways that I put aside that were like for my son to play with. But I put the pamphlets and I was like, here's what I need right now. Here's what I'm going to need when he's a teenager. And I put them in a binder so that I could then go back and find them when it was time. And I felt like it was my insurance policy for the next 10 years. And so when I came back the next year and my son was better, I felt like I had more to bring to the table. And each year it was better. And we only did like 3 years of it before I was hosting a show and came back and, was working there and helping to send the message out. And then it became different for us. Then it became about telling the stories of the families, which were amazing. I still think of some of those teams and the people who would come out to support and the things that they said. Now I wish that in those first few years I had a team, but I got to tell you, even if you don't do a team, it's so worthwhile to go and see. And then there's the other side of it, that there's so many fun things for your kids to do. Every single booth has something fun going on, but you have other activities, and there are so many stars that are there. I've since gone back and gone with interns from the show, all of whom were on the spectrum, and that's what they loved the most. Now, I don't know who you've got this year, but in the past, I don't know which cheerleading team it was from one of the LA sports teams, but I thought my interns were going to pass out. They were so excited about it. Because they got to meet them. It's a big event, but it's also small enough that, you're there with the people. And it's just so lovely when people come out to support. So who's on your big list this year of exciting people that they can meet at the walk? Anybody fun, or is it too soon to say?
A little too soon to say.
Okay.
But I will say, I think what is so wonderful about this is you honestly never know who's going to show up.
Yes.
Whether I always look at this event as almost an autism reunion.
Yes.
You see like every speech therapist you've ever gone to. You see every mom you've met in a waiting room. People you haven't seen for 10 years. You're there. You're like, oh my God, how are you?
Yeah.
And there is this bigger community of people that really want to show up for our kids, which I think is amazing. So we do have ABC7 coming out. They have
Lovely.
ABC7 and Univision have been tremendous partners of ours, literally since year 2003.
Yes.
So we so appreciate that long-running partnership with them. We're just so appreciative of them. So.
Well, this is a great event. I just had because they just told me we're already past 11 o'clock, so I had a small panic attack there for a moment. We're 5 minutes past when we were supposed to stop the show. But I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to come on and clarify. I think there's a lot, we're gonna have to schedule another time for you to come back on the show and tell your story and about the work that you're now doing with Autism Speaks and how this is a little bit of a reunion of in and of itself. Can I ask you to promise me that we can do that another time?
I would absolutely love that.
Okay. Well, again, the event is happening on Saturday. It's at the Rose Bowl. Where do they need to go to pre-register?
They can go to autismspeaks.org and click on the Walk tab. That's the easiest way to get there.
Okay, so if you're going to wait until the day of to register, you're going to need to bring some money with you. Do they take cards the morning of?
Yes, we do have credit card processing.
Okay.
They can bring a check or they can bring cash.
Okay, so 8:30 a.m. is when registration opens. 10 o'clock is when the rolling start to the walk actually happens. When is the whole event over?
The event is over at 1 o'clock.
Okay, which is great because it just starts to get hot then, and everybody, it's like put a fork in everybody because everybody's done. I love it because then you have the rest of the day and you feel like you've really done something. So what an incredible event. I really encourage you to go. If you're within the Los Angeles area, go and see what it is that I'm talking about. It will become one of your favorite things to go to. Tracey, thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you.
All right, well, and we will talk soon about your story on the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
And I've gone way over, you guys, so I'm going to end and tell you to make sure that you tune in tomorrow because we've got a great Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.